Welcome. This is Ratios level number 3. If you find that this lesson is a little bit too hard, feel free to check out levels number 1 and 2. If you find it too easy, feel free to check out levels number 4 and 5. Our learning targets today are I can represent ratios with tape diagrams, and I can use tape diagrams to compare ratios and solve real-world problems. Go ahead and rate yourself before the lesson, 1 being the least confident and 5 being the most confident. How do you feel about these learning targets? Then at the end of the lesson, we'll come back and rate ourselves again. Our opening problem says, write 3 ways to represent the ratio of total shapes to lightning bolts. Now, I know when I write ratios, the order matters. So if total shapes is listed first, that's the first number I'm going to write. Total is a keyword for addition, and we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total shapes. So I'm going to go ahead and write 6. And then the second quantity in our ratio description is lightning bolts. So we have 1, 2, 3 lightning bolts. So the ratio of total shapes to lightning bolts is 6 to 3. Now we can use a colon to represent ratios. That's one form. We can also use the word 2 and write 6 to 3. Remember, it said write 3 ways. And then the last way we can write it is as a fraction, 6 over 3. Remember, the key point is that the order matters when we write ratios. Let's take a look at our notes. We're going to draw a tape diagram. You should be writing with me. And label the quantities in the ratio. Boxes should be lined up the same size and super neat. Remember, you can always pause this video if you need more time. So we're actually going to solve a problem. We're going to take it step by step as we fill in our notes. So we're going to draw our tape diagram, make all of our boxes the same size. For example, A. It says the ratio of tennis players to basketball players at the school is 3 to 4. Okay, so I can see that tennis players came first and 3 came first. The order matters with ratios. So I'm going to go ahead and write tennis players and I'll draw 3 equal size boxes. And then basketball players. I'd have to write kind of small on that one. And then I'll draw 4 boxes for our basketball players. Remember, you want to start your boxes at the exact same spot and make them the exact same size. So I can easily see that there is 1 more box for basketball players than there is for tennis players. All right, so we just completed step number 1. Step number 2 is to label any other information the problem provides. All right, so let's go back down. It says, if the total number of people playing sports is 70. Okay, so we need to label the total. So to label the total, I'm going to circle all of our boxes. And then I'm just going to write total is 70. I'm just labeling what the problem gave us. Let's go back up to our notes and see what our next step is. For step number 3, we're going to divide to figure out the value of 1 box. Now it's important to remember that all of your boxes in your tape diagram will have the same number. So we're going to divide 70, our total, by how many boxes we have. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes. So I'm going to do 70 divided by 7 boxes. And yes, I want you to write the word boxes. And I know 70 divided by 7 is 10. So that's that number that we're going to have in every box. So go ahead and write 10 per box. And then go into each box and write 10. Let's take a look at our last step. Our last step, step number 4, is going to be to reread the question and answer it using your tape diagram. So our questions are asking, how many tennis players are there? Well, I can do 10 plus 10 plus 10, or I could do 10 times 3, which is 30. This is one of the reasons why it's so important to label your tape diagrams too. Now let's look at our basketball players. 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus 10, or 10 times 4 is 40. Now, a way you can check to see if your work is reasonable is to add them together. I know 30 plus 40 is 70, and that's the total amount of players we had in the beginning. So that tells me my answer is reasonable. Go ahead and pause the video, use your notes to help you, and complete example B. The ratio of days Miss Sweet bikes to days she runs is 5 to 3. If there's a total of 40 days, how many days does she bike? How many days does she run? So step number 1, we're going to draw our tape diagram. Bikes came first, so I'm going to label 5 first. Then we have 3 to represent days running. I'm going to start my box right beneath the bikes. All boxes equal sized and neat. Great, step number 1 is complete. Step number 2 is to label any other information. It says there's a total of 40 days. So I'm going to circle all of my boxes and write total 40. Great, I labeled the other information. Step number 3, I'm going to divide to figure out the value of one box. So I know all of these are going to have the same number. So I need to split up 40 equally into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 boxes. 40 divided by 8 boxes, right? Because there's 8 boxes in here, is 5 per box. So I'm going to go ahead and write 5 in every single box. 5, 5, 5, 5. Great. So now I'm going to reread the questions and answer them. How many days does she bike? Well, 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, or 5 times 5 is 25. How many days does she run? 5 times 3 is 15. Then I'm going to ask myself, are my answers reasonable? Well, I know there's a total of 40 days. 25 plus 15 equals 40, so my answer is reasonable. Let's take a look at page number 2. On page number 2, you can see the steps listed at the top with some examples in case you need help. I'm going to do one example with you, and then you can finish the rest of the page on your own. Number 1, the ratio of tennis players to basketball players at a school is 3 to 1. Okay, so I'm going to start by just labeling tennis and basketball. And I'll just write b-ball to abbreviate. Now, tennis came first, and 3 came first. So I know the 3 goes with tennis. and the 1 goes with basketball. I'm going to make my boxes extremely neat and lined up. And now I just completed step number 1, drawing and labeling my tape diagrams. Step number 2, I'm going to label any other information from the problem. It says the total number of people playing sports is 76. So I'm going to circle all of my boxes since we're talking about the total. And I'll write total 76. Completed step 2. Step number 3, I'm going to solve to figure out the value of one box. All boxes will have the same number. So I need to take this 76 and split it equally into these 4 boxes. 76 divided by 4 boxes equals 19 per box. Per box. Okay, so now I'll write 19 in every box. The boxes in all of your tape diagrams, tennis, basketball, all of them will always be the same. So now I'm going to reread my questions and answer them using my tape diagram. So my questions say, how many tennis players play? Well, 19 times 3 is 57. And how many basketball players? Well, I just have one box of 19. And 19 times 1 equals 19. Now, it's always a good practice to just think to yourself, are my answers reasonable? I know the total amount of players is 76. 57 plus 19 adds to 76. So that is reasonable. Go ahead and complete the rest of page 2 and then come back to the video. Page number 3, we're going to continue practicing the same thing. I'll do one example with you and then have you complete this page and the next page on your own. I'm going to complete number 6 with you. During a school president election, the ratio of freshmen to sophomores who voted was 5 to 8. Okay, so I know freshmen came first and 5 came first. So I'm going to go ahead and label freshmen. I'm going to write kind of small because I know I have to eventually make 8 boxes. And sophomores. Okay. So I'm going to label 5 boxes for our freshmen. Okay, so we have our freshmen and sophomores labeled 5 to 8. Now our second step is we need to label other information from the problem. It says if 741 people voted, how many were freshmen? Well, I'm going to circle all of my boxes since we're talking about the total, and then write total 741. So now I've labeled all of my information. Now I'm going to divide to figure out what number is going to go into each box. We have 5 boxes for freshmen, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 boxes total. So I'm going to do 741 divided by 13 boxes, and 741 divided by 13 is 57 per box. Remember, your boxes will always have the same number in them. So I'm going to write 57 in every single box. Great. And if I added up all of these 57s, they would give me 741 our total. So now we need to go back to the question and reread it. The question says, if 741 people voted, how many were freshmen? Well, this is why it's so important to label our tape diagram. For freshmen, we have 57, and we have 5 boxes. So we're going to do 57 times 5, or you could just add 57 plus 57 plus 57 plus 57 plus 57, but multiplying is probably quicker. When we do 57 times 5, we get 280, and 85. And we'll write that over here. Go ahead and complete the rest of page number 3, and then come back to the video. Page number 4, let's take a look at number 7. Vince was looking at his Spotify music stats. The ratio of songs he liked to disliked was 3-2. So liked came first, and 3 came first. So I'm going to label that on my tape diagram. Liked, we have 3 boxes. And then disliked will have 2 boxes. Perfect. Step number 1. Step number 2 is we're going to label other information from the problem. It says if he listened to 230 songs total. Okay, so if that's our total, I'm going to circle all of our boxes. Then I'm going to write total 230. Now we need to divide to figure out what number is going to go into every box. So I can see that we have a total of 5 boxes. So I'm going to do 230 divided by 5 boxes, which gives us 46 per box. So I'm going to write 46 in every box. Your boxes will always have the same number, and this will help us solve. So let's reread our question. It says, how many did he like? This is why it's so important to label our tape diagram. I know liked is this tape diagram, and so I'll do 46 times 3, or 46 plus 46 plus 46. And 46 times 3 is 138. So Vince liked 138 songs. Complete the rest of page 4 and page 5. Remember, you can always go back to your notes if you need help, and then come back to the video to see some important things on page 6. All right, on page number 6, it says, the ratio of tennis balls to basketballs is 3-2. If there are a total of 20 balls, how many are tennis balls? Lindsay set up her tape diagram below. If her work is correct, solve for the correct answer. Lindsay's work is not correct. Draw a new tape diagram and solve. So I want you to pause the video, take a look at Lindsay's work, and write down your answer. Then come back to the video. Now in this case, Lindsay did a couple things wrong. First, we know the order matters when we're writing ratios. Tennis balls came first, and 3 came first. So instead of 3 boxes for basketballs, there should actually be 3 boxes for tennis balls. The 2 will go with the basketballs since they both came second. So that's the first thing she did wrong. The next thing she did wrong is she wrote the total, which is 20 balls. She wrote that inside every box. That is not correct. Instead, Lindsay should have circled all of the boxes, written total 20, and then to figure out what goes into every box, you split up the total equally into how many boxes you have. So we have 5 boxes. So I'm going to do 20 divided by 5 boxes, which equals 4 per box. Now, Lindsay's answer said that there were 40 tennis balls. Okay, that is not correct. The question originally asked, how many tennis balls are there? Well, we can do 4 times 3, which is 12. There are 12 tennis balls. Okay, so go ahead, pause the video and complete the closing problem. Then you're going to complete debrief A and debrief B. In your own words, what did you learn today? How much effort did you put in? And what do you think is a common misconception or a common mistake students might make when they're learning about ratios and tape diagrams? Come back to the video once you're done with our debrief. Now that you've finished our debrief, we're going to go back to page number 1 and rate yourself on our learning targets after the lesson. So you may remember at the beginning, you rated yourself how you felt, how confident you felt about our learning targets. Now that we've gotten more practice, I want you to rate yourself again. 1 being the least confident, like I still need a lot of practice on this, but don't worry, you'll eventually get it. 3, you're feeling okay about it. And 5, you're feeling great about it and you could teach another student. If you're interested in more ratios practice, you can check out levels number 1, 2, or 4 and 5. Have a great day.